G'day, I'm Osher Ginsberg.
And I'm Charlie Clausen.
We are two dads who, when we found out we were going to be dads, went looking for a podcast that could help us navigate what it means to be a dad in the modern world.
I mean, there were parenting podcasts, but they all seemed to be aimed at mums, or at the very least, mums and dads.
Yeah, there were no podcasts for dads specifically, and certainly not dads who want to be hands-on and do their share of raising their children.
So, we started Dad Pod, a podcast by dads for dads who don't want to be shit dads.
Each week we share our own stories, from the good and the bad to the thermonuclear tantrums, as well as talk with some of the biggest experts in the field to help all of us become better dads.
So, if you're a dad, a mum dad, or a dad-to-be, search Dad Pod where you get your podcasts. This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA for mature audiences. It may contain sexual references, time travel references, allegations of bin misconduct, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that this episode is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who thinks a comedy conversation between two old mates sounds like a terrible idea for a show. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. This is John Deek speaking.
Hello and welcome to TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen and I'm here to present another compilation episode. We're taking another week off the show. It's the middle of the year. We're exhausted. We're freezing. I just had my fourth vaccine, my second booster, and it has knocked me for six. I feel so bad. So bad. Almost enough to be an anti-vaxxer. If I'm going to feel that bad, I'm never going to. No, I'm joking. But I do feel shit. I feel really shit. So we're not going to do another TOFOP this week. But Podcast Mike has been so good as to put together another compilation episode, some best bits, you might say, of TOFOP. Before we get into that, a little bit of housekeeping. Will has some live shows coming up. So you can go to willanderson.com.au for all those details. Or is it willanderson.com? I'm not sure. Just type in Will Anderson and you'll go there. And I have I have another podcast. Well, I have lots of other podcasts, but I have a non-TOFOP related podcast called Dad Pod, which is back on Acast. Dad Pod with Osher Ginsberg, me and Osh talking all things dad. And this season's a bit different. Prior to this season, we sort of just fumbled away through it. It was like in real time, me and Osh being dads. But now it's Osh and I being dads, but then we have experts to come in and tell us what we're doing wrong. So that's coming out every Thursday on Acast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. So what have we got in store? I'm just looking at what Mike has sent me. Oh, first up, I was actually talking about this story the other day. The first story you're going to hear is when I got scammed by a fake, a text from a fake Commonwealth Bank account. Almost was disastrous. But I did save myself in the end. I did have to change all my passwords. So there's no longer did we win, we shitted it in. How'd we do it? Easy. Had to change that. And to the point now where I don't even know how to log in to my Commonwealth Bank account. I tried to log in the other day and it's like, I have no fucking idea what my login is. So I just use my phone. Thank God for Face ID. That's what I say. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy some best bits of TOFOP, starting off with Charlie got scammed.
I almost got scammed by a phone scam. And it was one of those things where it's been a shit day, pissing down with rain, dealing with a kid, all this kind of stuff. And when I arrived home, I was sort of checking my phone as I was carrying shopping and baby upstairs. And I got a text message from my bank saying, your net bank's been disabled. And I had been changing some stuff around on my net bank and doing some online stuff, which in a split second when my mind's elsewhere, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I probably just need to. So I hit this link and then I, put Iona down and then it was saying that I needed to log in and blah, blah, blah. And I was about to do it. I just was not thinking. And so I started and then I, I looked at the URL because when I clicked the link, it took me to a Safari page on my phone. And it was Combank, but bank was spelled BANKK. So I was like, shit, I hit the link. And so I call the bank, they call their fraud department or whatever it is. And firstly, there must be a lot of frauds going on right now, because when you go on NetBank and you check out the fraud, they give you a list of the latest frauds, and it's so long. Like there's literally 40, frauds currently active that you should look out for, like the specific messages and emails and text messages and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, while I'm on hold, I keep getting, and the other thing too is the text came from the Commonwealth Bank. Like that's why I thought it must be real, because the previous messages in that thread were all legit ones from the Commonwealth Bank. So it was really well disguised. But then I start getting sent these prompts on my phone, text messages. You know how you get sent a net code? So it's like, log in with this net code. And I'm like, fuck. And it kept like, and I was getting freaked out because it was like every 5 minutes it would send me another prompt. Hey, dude, just log in. Just log in. Man. So I'm sweating going, is this like
just fucking log in there.
Yeah, that was really, but it was like, is this like a bot, or is this someone actually kind of, in Russia or somewhere, well, maybe not Russia, but, somewhere, like some hacker trying to get my bank details. So the guy came on, and the thing was, because my brain had been so occupied with other things, I couldn't entirely remember how far through the scam I had gotten. I knew I'd clicked the link, but had I put in my client number, because I also remember I was like, that's weird that it hasn't taken my app, and I opened my app, and then I was like, I got confused between was I using the app or was I using this dummy website that the scammers had set up. So he was running the guy, and then I started getting real paranoid and was like, am I actually talking to a guy from the Commonwealth Bank, or have they like hooked up my phone to some kind of, because they got my phone now, they obviously know my number. Am I talking to some
reality's like simulation?
Simulation, yeah. And so he was looking through all the bank accounts. He's like, look, there hasn't been any suspicious activity. So I think it's all okay. He's gone, but it's weird that they have your number and they keep sending you text messages. So I'm going to refer you to like another fraud department. So I got referred to another fraud department, and I kept getting passed up and up the train, and I was sweating because I'm like, fuck, like why are they sending me to such senior dudes? I've really fucked this. And so they were baffled. They hadn't seen this was a new scam. Apparently, wasn't on their list, and one that kind of freaked them out a bit because they said, "Well, obviously they're aping our phone number, like it's some kind of like what do you call it, like cloaking device or something that makes it look like a Commonwealth number." And the fact that they could then hold on to my number and then reuse it. So they said, "Look, we've shut everything down. We're just going to." We've shut everything down. You need to go on now and just redo all your passwords for everything, for your NetBank, for your phone password, all this kind of stuff. And then they had to ask me my security questions. Now, I'm not sure if you remember this story. In one of the very early episodes of TOFOP, I spoke about having to do like a security question clearance. And it was back in the days where you'd pick your own questions. And when I used to play junior footy, after a win, we had this like call and response thing, which was like the coach would go, "Did you win?" And then we'd say, "We shitted it in. How did you do it?" "Easy." And so that was my security question like 20 years ago. And I told this story about how embarrassing it was. The lady was like, "Okay, the first question is, did we win?" And I had to say, "Yes, we shitted it in." How do you spell shitted it? How'd we do it? Easy. So, all well and good. And I thought that was the last of my ridiculous question and answer, security question and answers. But this guy's gone, "Okay, Mr. Clausen, we just have to ask you some security questions." And I can tell you these now because I've changed it. But see if you can answer these two security questions well. Both are based on popular 80s films. Mm-hmm. So the first security question is, who's the moosiest moose we know?
Who's the moosiest moose we know? Bullwinkle?
No. Oh, great. Well, look, I would hope that you were the hacker trying to get my details, because that is a line from Vacation where Chevy Chase and the family are singing, "Who's the moosiest moose we know? Marty Moose. Who's the moose?" So the answer was Marty Moose. And then the second question, it's I'll give you a hint. So this is a sequel to an incredibly popular 80s film. Mm-hmm. The question, an incredibly popular 80s film that has since been rebooted as a TV series. But the question is, live or die, man.
Lethal Weapon.
No.
Damn it.
Karate Kid 2, in which Mr. Miyagi says, Ralph Macchio says live or die. And when the guy says die, he honks his nose. He goes honk. So that was my answer to my security question was honk. So Gemma was listening in the other room. So I got off the phone with this guy, and she's like, when you just wasn't you worried about a scam? She's gone, why were you saying honk to the guy on the telephone? I'm like, because I'm a fucking idiot. And so now, like, I think maybe I'm not the only one.
Here's what I would say, though, is this is one of those times where they're glad that they record these calls for quality assessment, because you definitely are making some sort of mixtape at the Commonwealth Bank for the end of the year.
Yeah, Christmas party.
For training. They're like, when they're training, like, people how to deal with, like, the weird requests that you're going to get or the weird things you're going to have to deal with. They're going to play that. They're going to be like, it's actually the guy from Home and Away. You're going to love this, guys.
So now, because when you go on, they actually give you preset questions. There's like 30 questions you can choose from, like, what was your primary school, or where's your favorite holiday destination, or whatever. But with those questions, are you, like, when you pick your answers to those, are you picking one that's just going to be easiest for you to remember? Or are you picking ones that are going to be hardest to guess for, like, a hacker? Like, what's your rationale with your security questions and answers?
Easiest for me to remember, but not things that people would know about me from. So I have, I think, a smaller list, and probably you as well from doing this podcast, but me from, obviously, having written bloody columns and, like, been on the radio, and
there's a lot of info about you out there.
So much information about me, like, where I grew up, it'd be so easy to find out, like, the road that I grew up on from a series of jokes that I did about the name of the road that I grew up on, like where I was born, like what my mother's maiden name was, any of those sort of things, names of your first pets, all those sort of things have been stuff that I have talked about. So I normally have to go a bit deep on there. I'm like the pitcher, and the catcher keeps, like, going, send this pitch down. I want to see the curveball, and I'm just shaking it off. Can't answer that one either, mate. You're going to have to go lower on your list. What else you got?
Well, then there's also the question of, like, how you actually, because you've got to be, like, you've got to, are you uppercase, lowercase, are you using punctuation, like all that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, some of these answers are a bit complex. And so I'm sort of treading the line between, well, this is kind of not easy to guess, but I don't think, as ridiculous as it is, did we win? We shitted it in. Like, the only hacker who was going to guess that was someone who played under 11s football with me at the East Brighton Vampires, I reckon. And even then, I doubt their recall would be that good.
Also, obscure trivia from, like, I mean, you went Karate Kid 2 and, Vacation. It wasn't like you went the two biggest movies on the planet where whatever like, what is life like in Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
And then someone could just say, oh, yeah, a box of chocolates. Right. Okay, I'm in, right? Like,
go ahead, make my blank.
Bed?
Well, that was the point. I went obscure.
I didn't get in. I thought it was bed.
Although we do live in an era of, like, fan service, and the 80s is back, and nostalgia, maybe it was the right time to erase those 80s references from my online banking, because everyone, like, there's a fucking Cobra Kai TV series. I'm sure Vacation will be getting a reboot soon. And all those films, all those TV shows, they just love a fucking reference to every scene and every bit of art direction, every bit of costume that was meaningless or had a minor bit of meaning in the original is now like, oh, this is how so-and-so got his hat. This is why so-and-so drives this car. It's like, yeah, so Marty Moose would be getting his own series soon.
No, you're right about that. Like, the references become more common. Also, the 80s were a long time ago. You don't know how politically correct your answers are. It might be, who are your three favorite heroes? And you're like, Mel Gibson, Woody Allen, and Michael Jackson.
Suddenly you're red flagged.
Wasn't that a hoot and a holler? Geez, I'm an idiot. The next thing we're going to talk about is one of my favorite topics. If you heard the episode of TOFOP I did with Ben McClay, Thomas Violence on Twitter, both big fans of the paranormal. In fact, I'm thinking that maybe that should be a new podcast to do with Ben. We dip into our respective supernatural libraries and we talk about ghosts and goblins and spooky things. I don't know. Anyway, we did an episode of TOFOP where we talked about celebrity ghost encounters. I was unaware of that some of these people even believed in ghosts, let alone had these very close encounters. Can you have a close encounter with a ghost, or is that aliens? I'm trying to think of another movie. What's what's a ghost movie? Fucking hell. Ghost. I had no idea so many people. Patrick Swayze. Look, this analogy has lost me. I'm doing really badly. Let me just say, this is a very funny bit in which we talk about various celebrities and their ghostly encounters. Now, back to Kendrick.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I decided to do a bit of digging online just to find out, who is this Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah.
And I stumbled across this article, which it just made me laugh so much. And I've read it a couple of times. This is from Rolling Stone.
Okay.
So it's like a legitimate publication. And it is 13 musicians with paranormal experiences.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, the little intro is Halloween is right around the... Who wrote this article? This is doesn't give a writer, it's just by Rolling Stone. Halloween is right around the corner, but according to some of your favorite musicians, so is the occasional ghost.
Okay.
So Kendrick Lamar. Now, can you guess what his paranormal encounter was? I might give it away if he had an encounter with the spirit of a famous dead rapper.
Did he just see the Tupac hologram at Coachella and think that it was a ghost? Because that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Kendrick was having a big time at Coachella, and then he's backstage and they're testing that Tupac hologram, and he thought he'd talk to the ghost of Tupac Shakur.
Acclaimed rap artist and activist Kendrick Lamar claims to have been visited in his sleep
Yeah.
by the ghost of legendary Tupac Shakur.
Yeah.
Which
It's the hologram.
I agree.
Other rappers,
It was the hologram.
Like Eminem and Dr. Dre are punking Kendrick Lamar with the hologram of Tupac.
Lamar spoke of the incident to Homegrown Radio, recalling how Shakur's silhouette came to him and said, "Keep doing what you're doing, man. Don't let my music die." Now, if it's in silhouette, my understanding of silhouette is you are completely concealed by shadow. That's what a silhouette is, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so if I had to describe Tupac in silhouette, it would be like sort of muscular, shirtless, with that bandana tied backwards.
That's how you
That could
know.
literally be anyone who was muscular and bald with the bandana tied backwards. It could have been Dr. Dre pranking him.
It could have been, but like I said, Dre's already paid all that money for the Tupac
Yeah.
hologram. He's already got that. Why would he even have to bother dressing up himself?
This experience later inspired Kendrick to the closing of the song "To Pimp a Butterfly,"
Oh, yeah.
titled "Mortal Man," in which he samples his real-life interview with the fallen rap legend in 1994.
Now, here's what I was going to say. I thought it was going to be when he met Ghostface Killer. And I, it's like, he came in to rap on your album, man. He's not an actual ghost. He was just in Wu-Tang.
The next artist, Ace Frehley from Kiss, has a connection to the other side.
Okay, yep.
Founding Kiss guitarist Ace Frehley recounts two different occasions when both his wife and daughter were violently pushed down the steps of their home by what he claims to be a ghost.
I bet. What
Your
it
Honor.
claims to be a ghost.
Is there a worse, more pathetic excuse than they were pushed by a ghost?
By a ghost. I mean, come on. Like,
So who lives in your
wife
house?
And your child.
Just me, my wife, my child, and me.
And a ghost.
And a ghost
And a ghost.
who likes to drink too much and push people down the stairs and wears Starman face makeup. I mean, no, he doesn't. Ace said, "I always had a sense that here was some type of connection with me and the other side," he explained on Celebrity Ghost Story. Not long after Frehley purchased a large family home in Westchester, he noticed things being moved around from place to place. He once discovered his daughter at the foot of the staircase. Frehley attributed whatever presence he'd noticed in the home must have been an evil spirit. So hang on. He once discovered his daughter at the foot of the staircase. But what? Like as in, it doesn't say, was she prone? Was she just standing there?
Well, I assume that this, like,
Didn't
as
they
he
make
said-
an entire Netflix true crime series about this?
Yeah, this is the original plot of the
Staircase,
staircase.
yeah.
It was Ace Frehley and his child. I think that the implication here is that she's been pushed down the stairs. That he's
Right.
discovered her at the bottom of the stairs, having been pushed down the stairs by this ghost.
Okay. All right. Let's just role play. I call you up, Will.
Who am I?
And I say, and you say, "How you going, man?" I'm like, "Not great."
Am I me?
James had to,
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
you're you, and I'm me.
Okay.
James had to take Iona to the hospital. You're
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, what happened?"
What
And
happened,
I saw a ghost push her down the stairs.
man? Okay, man, you've got to go to jail. I'll come over and I'll take you to jail.
Like, not even going to entertain the thought.
Straight
Not even
to
going
jail. Directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I'm taking you to prison, man.
Unsurprisingly, Ace Frehley's marriage fell apart and his daughter moved out after the incident.
Did she
but
move
once
out or was she pushed out by a ghost? That's what I want to know.
Once he moved back to the property with his new wife.
What?
Uh-oh.
You've got like a deathly spirit in your house. You can't bring a new wife in. Oh, don't tell me she's been pushed down the stairs as well.
She immediately picked up on the eeriness without even knowing about the spirit in the staircase. She too claims to have been pushed down those same steps.
Oh, my God.
A psychic told Frehley that his house had previously been inhabited by an abusive mother who'd murdered her children in the home.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that is the most likely explanation for the series of events that have been described.
I mean, I imagine the new wife wakes up unconscious at the bottom of the stairs. And he's standing over and he's like, oh my God, you know, I told you about my ex-wife, my daughter, how they left because that ghost he pushed you as well. I saw the whole thing.
You know what the interesting thing is? That the ghost has pushed his new wife, his old wife, and his child down the stairs. But here's what I'm not hearing from this description. Has this ghost ever pushed Ace Frehley down the stairs? No, right?
Well, yeah.
And I rest my case, Your Honor.
Just keeps getting better, doesn't it? This next bit is a subject we talk about a lot, or a person really we talk about a lot. It is The Rock. I noticed over the last year to 18 months that in promoting his upcoming film Black Adam, The Rock had used this tagline: the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. And it was so clunky. But not only was it really clunky, he just fucking kept using it. It was so persistent. And I brought it up with Will. Will was unaware of it. And we sort of try and break it down as A, who was involved in the creation of this tagline? And B, does it even make sense? So here, let's change topics a little bit to talk about a TOFOP favorite.
Good story.
The Rock.
I mean, I'm glad you did it for the story. That's some quality.
Well, the part of me was thinking, even if this goes wrong, we're recording TOFOP tomorrow, I'm going to have something to say about it.
Yeah, no, I was on the edge of my seat, literally.
I've been made it through the second season of Young Rock, and as we discussed previously when talking about the Young Rock, this is the Rock testing the waters for a presidential bid. That's the plot line that strings all these kind of So if you can think about it like an episode of Family Guy, every episode starts with the Rock in the future, 2032, doing his presidential campaign, and the guy interviewing him, he'll say like, hey, the waiter hasn't brought our bread rolls. You don't mind waiting? And The Rock's like, no, I don't mind waiting. Because when I was 7 years old, and then they will cut to like a lesson he learned as a 7-year-old or whatever like that.
Okay.
It's a fine, serviceable sitcom. If you're into wrestling, especially wrestling from the 80s, it's pretty cool because there's a lot of kind of nods and, actors playing famous wrestlers from the 80s. So it's all fun. But my belief is The Rock, he's testing the waters for a real presidential run. And also, as you discussed last time, he's creating his own mythology. Like he's turning himself into something even more famous and more mythological than he already is by committing all these stories to public record.
It's what in the future they will call a rockumentary.
A rockumentary. So he, I think actually they even make that joke in the show. They really leave no pun unturned.
I should get on board with this.
Yeah, I think you would quite like it. I think it's it treads this really fine line between, like, if it wasn't The Rock, you'd be like, this fucking dude, like, it's almost like a cult leader. Like he's so earnest in his belief about life lessons and hard work and humbleness and blah, blah, blah. And, these are the things that, are the ABCs of me and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if you weren't just the most charismatic, charming, successful dude on the planet, you'd be like, fuck you. Like, I resent this.
Yeah,
I resent this and I resent the show.
He is. So it's fine. It works perfectly for him.
Spoiler alert, at the end of the second season, he loses the election to become president. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. But I reckon he is wargaming it. Like he is wargaming. Okay, so let's run a scenario in which I don't win. Let's see what the reaction is. Let's see what people respond to. Let's see what they're probably doing heaps of market research. So it got me thinking about The Rock. And then, we had that discussion about, does he even operate his social media, and he's so media savvy. There is a line that The Rock has been using for the last 2 years in relation to his upcoming DC movie, Black Adam. Now, for someone who is so media savvy and really has a handle on PR and self-promotion, it is one of the clunkiest lines that I've ever heard anyone use, yet he persists with it. And I want your input because you're a Rock fan. You also know a bit about marketing and advertising and slogans. So are you familiar with the line he's been using about Black Adam? So every time he's promoted this upcoming Black Adam film, he says something about the DC universe. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Okay. So about 2 years ago, and I've been trying to track this online. So about 2 years ago, DC did one of their upfronts or whatever, and he was publicizing it. And he said, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. And since that time, I reckon every post about Black Adam, if not other things related to DC, The Rock has said it's either the hierarchy of power is about to change or the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is changing, right? It is the clunkiest fucking tagline. Like, it's terrible. It doesn't roll off the tongue. You sort of have to think and break it down for a bit. Then you start wondering, well, what is the hierarchy of power? But obviously this is a dude who market researches fucking everything, right? You think that he and his $7 guys would be like, we want to bring out Black Adam to be the biggest DC film of all time, or what's something that we can hang our hat on? What is the motto of this film? He even posted something a couple of days ago where it was a photo of him with the Black Adam script, and he's sitting at the steps of this, of this throne room set, and there's the big Black Adam throne. And The Rock wrote this really earnest post about today was a big day. I sat in Black Adam's throne for the first time, and we started shooting this film, 2 years ago. I promised myself that I would not sit in that throne until I believed I had delivered upon, the promise of this character. As an actor, I'm like, that's fucking annoying. Like, you're an actor. Like, they may need to shoot the throne scene early. Just sit in the fucking chair. It's fine. You've earned it. Like it says in the script, you earned it. Like, it's not, you don't have to earn the right to sit in the chair.
Also, it's not a thing. Like,
not a thing.
The bigger point for me is that it's a thing that
it's not a real throne.
Just made up yourself. It isn't. You're not Black Adam. I need to point out there is no Black Adam. It's a made up.
There was
character.
no Black Adam.
Yeah.
Made up character. So what do you reckon? Because he's been so persistent.
Yeah.
Like, I even went online and found out that I'm not the only one who's noticed this. Like, it's become a meme. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. A, do you think it's a good slogan? B, do you think, why do you think that they are pushing this so hard? Is there something beyond just selling Black Adam, or is there something else underneath this? Because watching the young Rock and seeing these posts, these earnest posts, like, he clearly has this, not obsession, but he's a winner and he likes to dominate and he likes to be the best and, go big or go home. But it's such a terrible, clunky slogan. I can't but think there is something else going on.
Okay, so look, here's what I will say. Get the not fun bit out of the way first, and then we can get to the fun of this, which would be that this, in most of these situations, if something is terrible, like, trust that there's someone who's fucked it up rather than like there's some grand conspiracy. So the hierarchy of power is about to change. Sounds okay,
the hierarchy
right?
of power in the DC universe. Yes. All right, sorry, yeah.
So the hierarchy of power is about to change. If I told you that was the slogan, that's snappy. You're right. Oh, what does that mean? Like, Adam's like a king. There's it's maybe it's that, but maybe it's about the idea that, like, move over Superman and move over Batman, like, the real big hero in the universe, and the fact that The Rock is like, not a white guy called Chris, like, playing one of these characters. Like, it's a statement about that. It's like cashing in on the, that kind of Marvel Wakanda, vibe as well. Like, and then I think some marketing executive has gone, yeah, but can we put in the DC universe, please? and they've fucked the whole thing up, right?
Yeah,
Like
the hierarchy of power is about to change.
Like
You're
it's
right.
not like if
rolls off the
He-Man's
tongue much
slogan
easier.
was, like if who's someone who has like like an iconic.
May the
slogan?
force be with you. May the force of the Star Wars universe be with you.
Extended universe be with you.
You're right. It's the corporate branding. Because you're right. That's exactly what the problem is.
Yeah.
They have mentioned the corporation that does not exist in the story world. Like if it was just going to be a snappy, evocative title, it would exist purely within the world of Black Adam. The DC universe.
Like there's no,
Batman's
never having a conversation with Superman going, man, this is an interesting DC universe that we all live in.
the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the DC universe is like, the DC universe is constantly expanding.
So I think that's it. I mean, I think that's the most boring answer.
Right.
But now let's just take of the DC universe out of it. The hierarchy. Okay. So what is the slogan then?
The hierarchy of power is about to change.
The hierarchy of power is about to change. It's still clunky. Like it's still not the snappiest. Like,
hierarchy is just not a good word for what they're trying to do.
I mean, hierarchy implies, I think hierarchy is one of those like words that feels like it has a regal connotation or like that sort
hierarchy.
of.
Yeah.
But also, I wonder if it is about that idea of they're trying to launch, like Batman and Superman and all those sort of things haven't quite worked out for them in the way that, perhaps Spider-Man and movies like that are, doing. So maybe this is their thing of going, no. Like we've got a new big star and this is not like a little, DC movie. This is like a Batman movie or this is like a Superman movie. This is like a Justice League movie. This is, how big this movie is going to be. But to take it to where I think you were taking it, which is this a secret message that the hierarchy of power in our society needs to change? Then sure, I'm on board. Absolutely. The QAnon thing, of course, is the storm. The storm is gathering or the storm is coming. Do you know this?
No.
So basically, anytime you hear a politician, there was a transphobic Australian politician that dominated our election, or at least discussion around this particular candidate. I know her name, but I'm not going to actually even say it because she doesn't deserve the publicity. But when she was getting kicked,
I'm flattered that you think mentioning her on TOFOP will suddenly make it national news.
Because I think this is the world she's going to live in now, not the TOFOP world, but the online podcast world, because there is a good living to be made as a grifter. And if you are seen as one of those QAnon people, look at Marjorie, whatever her name is, Thompson. Is that what her name is in America? Green. Sorry. Yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is that her name?
Yeah.
So
Jonathan Taylor Thomas's mother.
Yeah, that's right. I believe. And Tom Green's mum as well. Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Tom Green's mum, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she, there is an audience there that you can tap into. And so the code word is the storm or the gathering of the storm or the storm is coming. So Trump used to tweet about the storm and, this particular politician tweeted about the storm. And so maybe...
So hang on, are you saying that Charlie Cameron of the Brisbane Lions
every time when he says
he's part of QAnon?
Go Storm, he's actually sending out secret messages to his QAnon followers. That's some 2 podcast streams bleeding into each other. But you can check out our other podcast, 2 Guys, 1 Cup, an AFL adjacent podcast, where we do things like read the Twitter feed of Charles Cameron from the Brisbane Lions. It is exclusive to the Listener app. But okay, so let's just say that they're the Marvel universe of politics, right?
Yeah.
That Trump side. If Trump's coming back and The Rock is going to go into the American presidential election, that WrestleMania that he's about to sign up for, then do they need something that is their version of gathering the storm or the storm is coming? So maybe the hierarchy of power needs to change. Is their effort to tap into that?
Yeah, I think it's just like you say, maybe it's the simplest solution is they're just wanting to rebrand this franchise and they want to do it with a bang. And they're like, well, we need to upset the apple cart. And everyone knows the big DC characters, Wonder Woman, Batman, and the other guy. Everyone knows. Everyone knows.
The one who keeps
Superman.
and the one who keeps getting in fights in Hawaii. That one.
Yeah, that one. Don't you? Isn't that like? Isn't that a real fucking issue for the marketing team at Warner Brothers?
With that? I can't,
oh my god!
Like every day, I was like, can't believe they're still writing about this story about Ezra Miller getting arrested in Hawaii, and I'm like, oh no, it's a different story.
I believe they throw chairs every time. Like I read the same two articles. It's like, oh, must be the same article. No, he's thrown a chair. Sorry, they have thrown a chair twice in their time as a. What is he doing? Like, is this?
They hate.
So I keep fucking this up.
I mean, I know your intentions are right. They hate chairs, and you know what? They won't stand for it. Ironically, they do have to stand for it because they don't have chairs anymore.
But I was thinking about what the Warner Brothers marketing team do, because they've obviously spent a lot of money on, this new Flash film. They've got Michael Keaton back as Batman. So they're, this is part of the hierarchy of power in the DC universe changing. Like they want to, who knows? They're going to alter timelines and all that kind of shit. Hey, forget the Zack Snyder universe. We're starting again. Doesn't help when your star is on more than one occasion throwing a chair at someone.
I mean, again, he hates chairs. Just don't take him to places where there's chairs. That's the problem.
Always standing. Always standing.
I will say, I mean, it looks like they are troubled, and it feels like in that situation you would hope that somebody would step in and go, hey.
I mean, it's not a good thing, but I never liked Ezra Miller. Just was one of, as an actor, just never appealed to me. Was always shocked that he kept getting all these opportunities because I just didn't think they were particularly charming or funny or whatever.
Did you think you were better than Ezra? Come on.
I just didn't understand playing a superhero, but then again, I guess this is more a Zack Snyder thing. Zack Snyder they wanted a Peter Parker type Barry Allen. I never saw Barry Allen as being like this kind of quippy, smart-ass kid, but that's the direction they went in.
Yeah, I think with Ezra Miller too, like I didn't mind that take on Flash. I thought it was fun. Like it worked in those movies. It was actually one of the more fun bits of those movies for me. But I think the problem they had, both they being the people who made the movie and also Ezra, is that like there was already a really good version of the Flash on TV. That TV show, The Flash, like that version of the Flash, I think people are like, yeah, this is a cool version of the Flash. Like, he's kind of a bit dorky and nerdy, but he's also quite competent and good at being the Flash.
And doesn't throw chairs at anyone.
Does not throw chairs
in their real life. And that's something that I don't feel ashamed about. Like I honestly think he's the best of us. Look at him. I mean, physically, he's perfect. He's a smart, kind. He loves his family. I mean, there's got to be something wrong with him. I'm sure there is. But I'm a Rock fan. I know that's a controversial statement to say about the most popular movie star in the entire world, but I am a Rock fan, and I don't care who hears me say it. I've watched 2 seasons of Young Rock, and I quite enjoyed all of them. I feel like if we met, we'd be friends, but I guess that's the power of The Rock. He makes everyone feel like he'd be friends. I mean, Will's actually met him, and he felt like a friend. I remember Will saying to me when he met The Rock, he shines. He shines like a fucking vampire in Twilight or something. Anyway, I've got a news story to talk about. I don't even remember this coming up. It's only off. I'm going off Podcast Mike's run sheet here, but I shared a bedroom with my older brother when I was 10. My older brother is 12 years older than me, so I was 10 and he was 22. Will was fascinated by this particular point. I can't remember what we talked about, but I'm sure it was funny. Here is Charlie's brother shared his room.
I remember, and I don't know if I'm like maybe over the years my brain has exaggerated this story, but I'm pretty sure I had a friend who, when he graduated high school or when he got into university, his dad presented him with a bill for like the last 5 years of schooling or something, like his high school, like shoes, books, maybe even petrol from driving him to like the footy and stuff like that. But like he got a bill. He had to work off like a $1,000
bill from his dad. Now, I know what happened. I can't remember the exact figures or what he was charged for, but have you ever heard of anything like that where parents are like, you owe me? I mean, my mum, we had to pay board. Like when we got to 18, we had to pay her, we had to contribute to the household, you know, like the bills and stuff like that. So we paid board. That was fair enough.
Yeah.
But billing
when we graduated high school, we had to contribute to the household by fucking off out of the household. That was the rule at our house.
Was it really? Get the fuck out.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my parents were very firm about it. Like, I just remember them telling me one day, because we never had any inbuilt incentives at all. Like, there were other kids who got like, you know, $200 if you get an A, or if you get this much on your VCE, we're going to like buy you a car, or any of these sort of things. Like,
right.
Growing up on a farm, you know, we worked on the farm. We got paid, like our parents paid us to work on the farm. So we had a little bit of money put aside to, you know, cover our first car, or, you know, any of those sort of things that you might want to do, go away to university, or, you know, go on an overseas holiday, or whatever it might be. So, but we had to work for it the entire time. And there was definitely always, I remember my mum very clearly saying that it's your parents' job to raise you until you can look after yourself, and then you've got to have raised them well enough that they want to leave. Like, they always thought that was part of the job. Like, you know, the kids should want to leave. Not leave because home is a terrible situation, but leave because they've been prepared to be an adult properly, and you should be super excited about going out into the world on your own and making your own way in the world. And I think if my parents did my parents did lots of things well, I think, but like, if there's one thing I think they did really well, it was always instilled in us that real sense of, yeah, we'll help you and look after you. But basically, once you're an adult, like, the whole point is that you're meant to be on your own.
I can't quite remember how it worked. I remember with my older siblings, like, generally everyone moved out within 1 or 2 years of graduating high school. But there were obviously like return periods, and, you know, my brother came back in his mid-20s, and we even shared a bedroom when he was, like, he's 12 years older than me. We shared a bedroom for a couple of years while he came back. Found himself in Perth for 4 years, came back broke, needed to come home, find a job, get back on his feet, and then, you know, met who is now his wife and all that kind of stuff. But I do also remember that was mum's kind of sub.
Now, can I just say, did he meet his wife while he was, how old were you when you were sharing a bedroom with him?
Oh, I would have been like 10, and he was 22. No,
right. And so did he meet his wife while he was sharing a bedroom with a 10-year-old?
I actually can't remember. It's a good question.
I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive, about your personality, the strength of your personality, that you can woo someone to marry them when you're still sharing a bedroom with your 10-year-old.
I honestly can't remember him. I can remember Jamie moving out when he was 18. Like, he definitely, because he had a flat on Duke Street, like your first crash flat, like, that you have with your mates. Because I remember I went to a party there once. He was babysitting me one weekend. Mum said, take your brother out. So he took me he was 18 or 19. He took me to his flat and he had a party. Like, so you can imagine what I saw there. Like, I was 6 or 7. And like, I remember, like, and it was in the 80s, and, you know, he was into heavy metal and all his mates were into heavy metal. And so it was like a lot of drinking and shit getting smashed. And I remember he had a massive fight with his girlfriend, and like, I walked in on him fighting with his girlfriend, and he yelled at me, and I burst into tears, and someone had to like take me home. Like, it was a real fucking disaster. But then he went to WA for a few years, and then he came back when Dad got sick. And then that period he was home. But it's a good question, because in my mind, so Dad got sick in 89. He got married in 93. So there's a 4-year period where he must have met his wife. He must have moved out of home, but I don't remember that. So there is a chance that he was bunking with me when he met his future wife. And she was like, all right, you're cute, you're funny. Yeah. I guess I can put up with the weird fact that you'd still share a bedroom with your 10-year-old brother.
Yeah, like, was his pickup line, I currently share a bedroom and I'm looking to share a bedroom with somebody else who isn't my 10-year-old brother.
Maybe. I think, you know what I think maybe smoothed it over, and this is why football is a wonderful, is she was a Saints supporter. Like, they met at his work. They both worked together. They both turned out to follow the Saints. They started going to the footy together. And then me and my brother were going to the footy. He would take me. And so she met me very early on. So maybe I kind of like
smooth things over. She's like, when she first met him, she's like, it's a bit weird. I know he shares a bedroom with his 10-year-old brother. But then she met me and she's like, that's a fucking cool 10-year-old. If you're going to share a bedroom with any 10-year-old, it's that one.
Okay, so are you saying that like there might be a chance that the reason that they are together is that you brought your A game to those encounters?
No, I think that maybe the fact that I was a Saint supporter, like, you know what it's like where you can meet someone you have nothing in common with, but they go for the Bulldogs and you're like, okay, they can't be too bad. Like, at least we have something in common. So maybe that kind of helped sweeten the deal. I do remember, because my brother and I were really close when he came back, and, you know, obviously after Dad dying, you know, we bonded really close, and, you know, we hung out all the time, and he took me lots of places and stuff. And I remember when he brought his wife home getting jealous, like, because I'd met her a few times at the football and stuff, but then I remember him bringing her home for family dinner and me sort of sitting at the table and being like, what the fuck's going on here? Wait a minute. Like, you're trying to take my brother away from me. Like, yeah, and getting really kind of like, I don't like this. I do not like this.
She is not getting to sleep in my bed in the bedroom. You don't have any understanding of how it works.
Yeah. Well, that was a story for the ages. I honestly have no idea what just happened. I haven't listened to the clips. I'm guessing. One more clip to go before we bid you a fond adieu, and thank you for being fans of the show. Fans of the show, how pretentious. Being listeners to the show. We really do appreciate every one of you. In fact, it's been a very trying time for Will and I for different reasons over the past couple of years, and your support, both financially and just in general, online, you know, the enthusiasm you've shown for the show, even after 12 years, it's really great. And we really do appreciate it. We know sometimes we get things wrong and we fuck up, and we overpromise and underdeliver. But it genuinely is something that we're both very fond of, and we love the fact that there's an audience out there for that. Speaking of that, if you would like to support the show, you can at patreon.com/TOFOP. If you sign up at the top tier, which is a $20 tier, you get an autographed poster by Will and I. I still have about, I reckon, 50 to give away. And once they are gone, they are gone. So you can sign up for a $20 level and then go back down to whatever other level you want. After that, you'll still get sent a poster. Fridge magnets, I've had to dial back on. It was costing me way too much money to send them internationally. I'm happy to do a poster internationally because I think it, you know, if I can get another month out of a top tier Patreon listener, then it's worth it. It's worth the $20 or whatever it costs me to send a fucking poster to the United States or the UK or whatever. But yes, if you want to support the show, that is the best way to do it. We have been running very meager ads on TOFOP, I think. Maybe TOFOP, I'm not sure. I don't really listen back to the show. And I got our financial statement for the last 3 months in terms of advertising dollars. And it was not a lot. Suffice to say, thank God for listener, because that's keeping us afloat. And thank God for Patreon, because that is really how we pay the bills. That if we didn't have either of those two things, we wouldn't have a show. So thank you for your support. Enough of my sob story. Let's go out on one final hilarious anecdote. You might remember that I had long hair for the end of last year and started this year. Really long hair, in fact. I had a fucking ponytail at one point. What I didn't anticipate is when you have long hair and it falls across your forehead, if you live in a sunny place like I do, you get tan lines. So I got a tan line across the top of my head, well, pale across the top, tanned underneath in the rough shape of my fringe, or a forelock if you're a horse. That's a bit of horse banter for you horse freaks out there. I don't know. Oh, this fucking jab has really done my head in. I feel so crook, and I just spent 2 hours trying to get my daughter to go to sleep. So I am exhausted. But again, thank you so much for your support of the show. We'll be back as soon as we can, just taking a little bit of time out. And while we're not doing shows, we're still doing FOFOPs. So check out Adam Zwar is on FOFOP this week. He comes back on the show. Adam actually came around for dinner at my place a couple of nights ago, and I was like, fuck, dude, we should do a podcast. And so 2 days later, we did it via Skype, which is ridiculous because he lives 20 minutes from my house. But that's the way the world is these days. But it's a really great chat. He talks a lot about his time growing up in Brisbane, a bit of backstory around Wilfred. Adam is just one of those dudes who can hold court. And if you haven't read his book, 12 Summers,
I highly recommend you check it out. It's very funny and very moving. Surprisingly moving. Not surprisingly moving. I don't want to kind of undersell Adam's skill as a dramatic writer, but I did not expect it to be quite as moving, but it is. It's a very touching book, very funny. 12 Summers, available now at Hatchet Press or something like that. If you go to the TOFOP episode description, you'll see a link to that book there. And of course, Two Guys, One Cup, exclusive to the listener app. It's been a fucking blast this year. I know there's been some bloody naysayers and shit, but Will and I have really enjoyed doing Two Guys, One Cup this year. We've been the resources that listener have made available to us has meant the show has changed a bit. It's got a little bit more professional. And we're obviously putting out clips every week as well. So go to our Instagram and our Twitter account to check out some Two Guys, One Cup highlights. And don't forget, we do our tips every Thursday afternoon on Instagram Live. But that's it from me. Stay cool. Trialing a new sign off. No, I'm Charlie Clausen. It feels weird with that Will here. Mike, just end the show. Well, I'm not sure if you have noticed now that we are doing this podcast with a HD video, I have a tan line. Have you seen this? This is one of the kind of drawbacks of having long hair. Over the summer, I was wearing my hair down, and so now I have this patch of white skin here. This is good motivation for anyone listening to sign up to our Patreon so you can see the full video of me pointing out where my sexy forehead tan line is. Can you see that, the color difference?
Here's what people at home need to know. So this technology we're recording on, you get the perfect HD video, but sometimes because of the nature of us being over the internet, we see each other a little fuzzy. So until you pointed it out, I just assumed it was some weird quirk of the technology, that I was just getting some sort of glare off your forehead or something from like the lights. And I was like, that is a weird like effect. It kind of feels like, to be honest, that you've got like a kind of horseshoe shape on your forehead, like that's just sitting there. But I just assumed it was the bad lighting. I didn't realize that this was actually, that came with your skin. Any lighting circumstances that it would be there.
I only noticed this on Friday. I went for a run and I had some time off. I only was in daycare, so I was like, I'm going to go to a cafe. I'm going to bloody spoil myself and actually like eat lunch in a cafe. And I noticed that everyone was kind of.
Now, have you run to the cafe? Tell me. So, no, let's run. Walk me through this. So, did you run to the cafe?
No. So I did the lighthouse run in Byron, and so I went up and down there, cooled down in the park, stretched. Allowed myself to kind of my heart rate to get to a more resting level. And then went for a bit of a wander through town and thought I will indulge myself with a lunch in a cafe, like a bloody independent adult who doesn't have a kid. And I noticed that people were looking at me strange, but I just thought, well, it's fine. I'm in Byron. Maybe it's because I'm not alternative enough, or maybe because I'm not Botoxed enough, depending on what side of Byron you fall on. Are you part of the original alternative crew, or are you part of the Byron Bay kind of movement? I fall on neither side. But when I went to the bathroom, I looked in the mirror and I realized that even though I'd cooled down, stretched and stuff after my run, that I was quite red-faced. But the red had not distributed itself evenly. And that's when I noticed this tan line as well. So I had large blotches of red, but kind of ran like a Rorschach test of inflammation around my face, with a large pale white dot here where my tan line is. But the thing is, everyone was polite because, they were staring, but no one was saying anything because it looked like a pre-existing skin condition. Like, what's that one that Michael Jackson had? The vertigo or something like that. It looked like I had. Yeah,
vertigo, of course. That thing that everybody knows about, vertigo.
Vertigo, go. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm meant to do about this tan line, if I meant to even it out or anything like that, but I haven't had long hair for a while.
No, I own it. I think that should be your signature look. You've been talking about that idea of what's my look? How do I fit in this community? I think top deck head. People can just like go, who's that guy over there whose head looks like a Cadbury top deck
head?
Actually, with the blotches. So top deck head. Who's that deck head? Did you call me a dickhead? No, mate, deck head, like top deck.
Yeah, they can shorten it to deckhead. I like being top deckhead. I'm not against the idea of having a signature kind of look. Like there's certain in high, you know how like in high fashion, like generally the fashion industry is pretty terrible for body image for, you know, men and women and forcing them into very narrow kind of fields. But then occasionally there'll be one like tokenistic, you know, runway model who's got some strange kind of like pre-existing condition or abnormality. It might be minor, like big gap between the teeth, or it might be like a skin condition or something like that. Maybe, I mean, is it too much of a stretch to think that maybe my fashion career starts now? That everyone's like, you know, we've got this new label we want to launch. We want someone different. We want some cut through. We want to say we're independent. Find me a top deck head. Is there a top deck head out there that we can get? And then one guy was like, well, I was at a cafe the other day. And this blotchy top.
Yeah, well, because you are the least qualified person, right? Like at the moment, because you're like a white straight man, like a middle-aged white straight man. Diamond doesn't. Plenty of them around. They've had it too good for too long.
Saturated
like
market.
you just going in, right? As that's not a good hook for you at the moment. But top deckhead, I feel like that's a look. That feels like a fashion forward look. Like, you know, if you could actually get that to catch on, like if on TikTok or whatever, it became a trend of like, oh my God, did you see that guy with the top deck head? Maybe you need a sponsorship from Cadbury's Top Deck, right? You need to get Top Deck on board. You maybe get some viral money behind it and you try to make people, maybe you've got to incorporate it with a community. So what's a community? Because that's what you need, right? You need cool culture, like normally leads these sort of things. So I'm thinking decks. I'm thinking skateboarding, right? So like, you know, you call
deck heads,
right?
Yeah.
So deck heads, you could be like, because you call a skateboard a deck, right? Do you?
Yeah. But,
I mean, I'm an old man. I'm speculating. Do they still call it a deck?
I think they do, but isn't there also like, aren't there? I'm thinking when we go even more niche. I'm pretty sure there's like music enthusiasts who are deck heads, like guys who collect tape decks. So could I be? Like, you know, 'cause that's what fashion's all about.
Yeah.
They want subculture. Like, I think skating's a bit mainstream
Too
now
big.
anyway. Too big.
Yeah.
But if I was representing like, you know, they could market me like a boy band. You know, they could say, oh, this dude is like, you know, I'm backed by like big fashion, but they're saying, oh, this guy comes from niche culture. He only listens to music on tape. He doesn't.
He's a deckhead, and his head also looks like a top deck.
Do you think that would work? Or is it like one of those kind of ethical dilemmas? Like, you know, so I've had this thing occur by accident and it suddenly grants me access to this new world. But this is just a tan line, Will. My skin will eventually even itself out. And then I have to like, I've been pretending this is some kind of like from birth. I had this condition.
Oh, no. You can't do that. You can't. No. That's disrespectful. No, you can't be like culturally appropriating people's skin diseases. Like it's disrespectful to people who like, suffer from skin diseases. No, this is a purely voluntary thing that you're doing here. This is a fashion thing. It's like wearing like at the moment there's bikinis that have like under boob or whatever, or wearing a Band-Aid on your head, or like wearing your headband when you go for a run. This is like a fashion thing, right? But I think that we've missed the most obvious one, which is we're thinking fashion. We're thinking breaking into the world of fashion. That's pretty hard. But what we could break into is that world of sort of angry white men on the internet conspiracy land. Because you know how in America, like fuck you Biden is now let's go Brandon, and they've all got T-shirts that say let's go Brandon, and it's their secret code to say fuck you Biden. Like the MAGA hats will get you kicked out of a party, right? Like if people say, but if you want to send a signal to someone else at the party that you normally love wearing your MAGA hat and you're one of them, you've got to be a deckhead. That's how you see other people at the party. They're sort of like, red to the sort of halfway through their face and then white for the rest.
That makes sense too, because it's kind of like you're incorporating like a bit of that red neck imagery, but it's red face, white forehead. And there is a bit of something about having.
Well, I would say let's do it like that. You've got to have your neck sunburn on the neck, so it's extra red. So this is what we've got to lean into. So you get out in the sun, like you've got to encourage, and this is great for us as well, because it feels like we're on the side of these guys. But the other thing is we're encouraging a lot of them to get really bad skin cancer. So we're doing our bit for world peace as well. So we encourage people that if you really love, the alt-right, what you need to start doing is getting this deckhead look where you completely sunburn your face right up to your forehead, and then it's like pure white up there. That's the kind of secret signal that like pure white, redneck, pure white.
This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
Cool things for cool people.